Welcome back to the Deeper Pulse and the continuation of the Culture series. 2024 has only just begun, but it's probably going to be one for the books. So it feels imperative that we continue with our examination of what is putting the cult in culture. It's through this combination of storytelling and psychoeducation that we can learn and unlearn together, opening our eyes to how everyday cult conditioning has made so many of us blind to the social systems that are continually shaping our beliefs, influencing and even controlling our behavior. Ignorance around everyday cult dynamics, it comes with a very real and immediate cost, not just for those folks over there who are in this or that group, but for all of us. We are all under the influence in some way, shape, or form. And in this interdependently connected world we're living in, the collective cost of denial is a price that we can no longer afford to pay. So let's roll right into it. The stories and opinions shared here are based on personal experience and are not intended to malign any individual, group, or organization. We're going to keep our finger on the pulse of diet culture with a guest who's joining me to share with us her artistry and a personal history that I find oh so relatable. As I mentioned in the lead-in to the last episode, I've heard from quite a few listeners who were moved by recent releases on the pod when Tracy Stamper and I sat down with Tara White for a 2-part deconstruction of diet culture. And I just want to plant the seed here that sometime in the next few weeks, you're going to be hearing from a couple of those listeners. Folks who are generous enough to show up and share with us another perspective. Namely, what it's like to navigate the cruel insensitivity of a fat-phobic culture while living in a larger body. What it feels like to be judged, policed, and marginalized for the shape and size of your everyday existence. Each of these stories will, of course, be multifaceted and unique. Despite cult categorizing rhetoric, marginalized voices are in no way monolithic. These conversations are still in the works, so you can expect them to roll out sometime in mid-February. In the meantime, however, I'm hoping that this episode leaves us with a reminder of how folks like me, straight-sized white women in wellness and recovery, can use and in some cases sacrifice our unearned privilege to free ourselves and make way for greater belonging and inclusivity. And so today I want to share with you an impromptu conversation I recently had with a dear friend. Susan McCulley and I met about a year ago, thanks to the Culture series and this ongoing critique we've been doing of the mind-body fitness organization we refer to as the org. Among her many other talents, Susan is a former teacher of the org practice, and she's since become a vocal contributor both over on Patreon and in the After the Org recovery community, which I'm happy to report a year and a half in is still going strong. In May of last year, Susan joined Tracy and I for 2 back-to-back episodes in the ongoing Deconstructing Dogma series over on Patreon, and that's when I really got to know her. I fell in love with Susan immediately. She's just got that way about her, and she and I actually have quite a bit in common. We share a love of dance, writing, and learning out loud. But what I didn't know until recently is that she and I have battled many of the same diet culture demons. Just a couple of weeks ago, shortly after the release of those 2 episodes with Tara on the pod, Susan and I reconnected through an email exchange, and she sent me a link to an essay and blog post that she authored on this very topic. Now, as someone who's both an old school book nerd and a product of this modern digital era, I often find it pretty difficult to read long essays and articles online. I usually speed read, scrolling through the words quickly, sometimes checking out midway through, leaving the tab open optimistically, certain that I'll pick up where I left off later. Yeah, right. But in the case of Susan's essay, I was pulled in immediately. I drank in every single word, top to bottom, jotting notes in the margins of my mind, relating, wanting to cry, feeling less alone. And so, of course, I was eager to hear more about what it was that inspired this piece, So I invited her to sit down and record the conversation you're about to hear. It was intended as a Patreon bonus, but at the last minute, I decided to share a portion of our dialogue here on the main feed. And I should also note that I asked Susan if she'd be willing to read portions of her essay out loud, so you can expect to hear a few excerpts from this piece peppered throughout this conversation, from her essay entitled Snapshots from the Body Image Brink. Susan McCulley has been a mindful movement leader, artist, and writer since 2000. She's the creator of The Age of Becoming, Embodied Practices Empowering Women Over 50, a community which offers free movement practices and workshops, connection, community, and more. Her 30-lesson audio course, Building Balance in Your Body and Life, was published on the Insight Timer meditation app in early 2022. She has 2 illustrated books, Buddha Cat, Learning Awareness, Presence, and Self-Care from a Teacher Who Sometimes Barfs on the Bed, and Octabusy, Letting Go in a Sea of Doing. So without further delay, welcome Susan McCulley.
When did I start hating my body? When? When did I go from being a child living and moving in her skin, eating until I was full, to a woman obsessed with making her body smaller and tighter? When did my body shift from being my vehicle for living and feeling to a vehicle for shame, punishment, and madness? When was the moment that I stopped embodying myself and started judging, criticizing, hiding, and always working to change myself? Child body memories are strong, lithely leaping from rock to rock, swinging high, wild, and windy on playground swing sets, intently playing in the dirt, on the beach, on the grass, on the driveway, on my perma-scabbed knees, jungling on the jungle gym until my hands smelled of metal, falling off my bike again, so frustrated I threw the stupid thing down and kicked it until I cried, crying with my whole body in anger or sadness or fear, crying with every cell and fiber, letting the feelings pour, rip, tear through, and then pass, leaving me empty and tired and clean. Grown-up body memories are strong too, grabbing the fat on my belly with both hands as if I could wrench it off of me, looking at pictures of models and movie stars, the people who count, who are loved and admired, and thinking, knowing, panicking that I didn't look anything like that. Being hungry, or worried, or anxious, or bored, or tired, and eating too much, and then plunging, crashing, feeling ashamed and worthless. And since I could not stop eating as some strong-willed friends could, working out extra hard or long to burn it, sear it, incinerate it off. And for years, decades, the feeling of bitter futility and deep unworthiness. When did I start hating my body?
Welcome, Susan. Thanks for coming today.
Oh, thanks, Candace. It's a delight to be together.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here again. And this was just an impromptu thing, what we decided 2 days ago to record this. Does that sound right?
Yes, you hit me with some truth bombs on the main feed, and I was just like, yes, please, more of this.
More of this. And so, so I had said, those of you who are up to date on the main feed of the podcast, main feed, by the way, some people have been like, what's that mean? Main feed is basically where the episodes stream that everybody in the whole world can listen to. And then there's the Patreon bonus ones that only Patreon subscribers hear. So on the main feed, we had Tara White on for a 2-part conversation on diet culture. And I had said, hey, if y'all want us to continue this conversation, let us know. And Susan, you chimed in the comments. And then I reached out and said, hey, you want to talk about this and just do kind of a beginning follow-up to what's going on with this because there's so much energy buzzing around all of this. And then Susan sent me an essay that we're going to be talking about here shortly that kind of knocked me on my butt in the best possible way around all of this. And I just thought this is just the next right thing to sit down and to talk with you about all the things around all of this. And it's a lot. So yeah. So tell me why you said yes to sitting down with me.
Well, I think that I wrote the essay that I sent you 8 years ago, and I didn't publish it. I didn't put it onto my blog until it took me 6 years to get up the courage to put it onto my blog.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I had written it in 2016, and I didn't publish it until 2022.
Wow.
And I thought about why that was. And a lot of it had to do with feelings of vulnerability, of shame, because a lot of what I talk about in the essay is that I'm kind of presenting one thing, but I know that I'm living something different and, not feeling that excited about, sharing that. And in the meantime, I have learned so much. I have read and listened to and followed so many really intelligent, compassionate teachers and leaders around anti-diet culture, fighting against anti-fatness. And what I'm realizing is that the more we can normalize our individual experiences, the more that we can say, this is what I'm noticing. I mean, it's exactly what you were doing with the whole podcast around the org. All of us were in our little bubbles, feeling like we were the only ones. You tell your story, and all of us are like, oh, me too. Not perhaps in every single specific, of course, but enough of the feeling to feel like, oh, this isn't just me. And this is something bigger. And so that was what spurred me to finally publish the essay. And, now 2 years after that, when you said, does anybody want to talk about this? I'm like, we have to.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why. And that, and because I love having conversations with you.
Yeah. I know. It's so great. It's so fun the last time we talked, and it's been a long time. And so it just felt right. And I really thank you for, just beautifully articulated the sort of the purpose of us being here and what I really felt shine through in terms of your essay, which we're going to link to those of you who are curious about, what it was that you spilled onto the page and you waited 6 years to share. And it's really your journey in a body, right? Your life in a body. And you asked the question at the beginning of it, when did I start hating my body? And then there's all these little vignettes. It's just beautiful in the way that it's presented, because it's not like, I'm going to tell you my body story from start to finish. It's like these snapshots. It's like we just get these pictures into these different moments and your experiences. And so many of them I could relate to. I started highlighting certain sections, and then I was like, this is getting ridiculous. Highlighting so much that I just felt a sense of, I can relate to. And there were a couple that I was like, wow, I don't know what that's like. I mean, this is where we speak about thin privilege, right? Like, oh, I didn't have that particular experience. That's really good for me to know about. And I want to hear more about that, right? So normalizing people of all sizes and shapes and colors speaking about their experiences and having these Me Too moments around all this body stuff. And I want to say right out of the gate, and this is something that Susan and I were talking about before we pressed record, just and Susan used the perfect word, the tenderness that exists around these topics for so many of us. And I'm really sensing this and within myself, and I've spoken to it in the two-part conversation, but in the culture of the listening culture around the podcast, the messages that I'm receiving, I'm hearing from people saying, I can relate in this way and that way. I have a story I want to share. And I'm also, part of this comes from, I do teach a couple of movement classes, and I know you're still teaching, right, Susan?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been kind of playing with weaving what's going on in the podcast into what I'm doing in my classes. And this was the perfect month to really roll that out. And so I've been talking about health at every size and just pointing at diet culture just a little bit in my classes. And the atmosphere becomes very psychoactive in a way, right? Like there's just all this emotional energy present. People who are like, thank you. People who are like, what? People who are having cognitive dissonance. I mean, I don't know what everyone's experience is, but I just know that there's like a medley of emotions swimming around and a tremendous amount of tenderness. And I feel myself walking on eggshells a little bit in the way that I talk about these things because it's so complex. And as soon as I say one thing, then there's a contradiction over here because somebody else's perspective is different. And it's messy. And I think that's part of why we avoid it too.
Yeah.
Is because it's so messy. So I love that you were leading with this sense of let's just be messy together. And that's what Susan and I decided. We don't have a plan here. We just wanted to do as she said and just say, like, let's just continue this conversation and we're going to quote unquote screw it up here and there as we figure it out together.
Sure. Yeah. Right. I mean, as I mentioned, there are lots of what I would consider authorities or experts on this topic. I am not one of them. Although I do have a lot of people that I recommend paying attention to their work. So we could definitely link to those as well. But I am an expert on my own experience. And I have a unique ability to say, I was saying this, but it was bullshit. Right. And so to be able to see sort of the external and the internal. And as you alluded to too, I too am incredibly privileged in this. I'm straight sized. I'm cis, straight, female, affluent enough to be able to afford food and the time to prepare it and all of these things that give me incredible privilege. And so I am also not saying, as you alluded to too, that my experience is everybody's experience. But I think that the more we share what we all go through living in these bodies, living in this culture, the more we can start to put together other ways of being in this culture and changing this culture. One of the things I think that happens is that the hierarchical, patriarchal society shames these feelings of unworthiness, of inadequacy, and we isolate. We get isolated. We get ourselves into a situation where we think we're the only ones. And just like you have talked about in regard to the org, that we can feel like we're the problem. We're the crazy one. We're the one who's like too sensitive or too whatever, or not enough, whatever. Mm-hmm. Instead of the more we share with each other, the more we see that this is all working as designed. It's all happening exactly as it's supposed to be, so that we are pouring all of our mental and emotional energy into this and not coming together and helping to break it down and change the way things are. And it is so ubiquitous. It is so the water that we are swimming in. So there's both this feeling of isolation and also just the enormity, like the places and the ways that this stuff shows up. It just never ceases to shock me. I was in a physical therapist's office just this week, and I don't think there was a single image on their wall that wasn't straight-sized, white, fit. And I was thinking, okay, it's a physical therapist's office, but still, if we look at the bodies that are in that space, that is like totally not representative. And there's a message there, right? There's a message there.
There sure is.
This is what you want to be doing. This is the way. This is the way you should look. This is the way you get better. This is the way you feel better. And I was just in there going, okay, I hope they send me a survey. Send me a survey about what I think, because I love the therapist. I love it. I just would love to be able to speak to that. Because I think it's important. So I think sharing about this is both a way of breaking open the little bubbles that we are self-flagellating ourselves in,
Mm-hmm.
and also kind of putting our heads up out of the water that we're swimming in and going, oh, wait,
Right.
there's a lot more going on here that we can speak to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, like, this is a silly image, but I got the image of almost like Marco Polo, call and respond
Yeah.
with the people around us. Like, come up for
Yeah.
air with me.
Yeah.
We're going to probably get pulled under again,
Yes.
but let's see if we can come up for air together more and more often. And then maybe
Right.
eventually we can get out of this mess. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that the more stories I hear, the more I talk about these things, the more I catch it faster in myself, the more I see the pattern and make different choices. The more that I am open to gentle reminders from people who are on the path.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's definitely tricky, tender, tricky territory.
It is.
So
it really is.
Here we go.
And I love that you said ubiquitous. I just, right before we came to record, I was in my bathroom and I opened my little drawer to get out some powder to powder my nose with. And I pull out the powder in a little thing. And every time I put on makeup now, which isn't often, but when I record, I tend to put on a little bit of makeup, which is sort of a dialogue I'm having with myself in and of itself. So I'm having that dialogue, which I always do. I'm like, do I really need to put on makeup? So I pull it out and I open the powder thing, and I realize as I close it, this thing that I've used many, many times, that the title on it, I think it's like Maybelline, I don't know, but the title on it is Infallible.
Oh my.
That's what it's called. Infallible. And I'm just like, wow, these messages, this is what I'm putting on my face. And I had just this morning been thinking about my perfectionism and how I'm
me
like
too.
working
I was
on
thinking
that.
about it too. Yes.
Right. So it's like, then I open this thing and it's like, infallible. That's how you need to be. Put this on and you will be, which is absurd. But the message of that, like, it can't be overlooked. Like you said, ubiquitous, how many ways it's like streaming in at us.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. And if we unpack that perfectionism, I keep thinking, just like the diet culture thing, I keep thinking I've got it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh no, I don't have it. It's still there.
Yeah.
But because I think that, again, that the reason that infallibility, that perfection is just so tantalizing as a way of protection. It's such a way of protection. And it's also fascinating if we look at the roots of ideas of perfectionism, go straight to white supremacy.
White supremacy. Yep. That's right. Absolutely. And how they play into privilege is so important. Like, if we think even in this sort of container that we're speaking about, like wellness and fitness circles, and how the closer you can get to that ideal, the more protected you are.
That's right.
Right? So it's like, it's so tangible. This isn't just like, oh, the roots of it are in white supremacy, which is a thing that doesn't exist anymore. It's like, no, it's this, I don't know that people in our circle say that, but there is really that sort of attitude that some folks carry into conversations around race and all of this. And it's so immediate, and it's just more disguised with every generation, but it's the same mechanism operating. And in some ways, I would argue it's more damaging because it's more gaslighting.
Right.
Right? It's like that thing that you think is happening isn't even happening. Like, we appreciate and love all bodies here. What are you even talking about?
Oh, don't even get me started.
I want to get you started. Go.
Right. Yes. I mean, and I do talk about this in the essay to some extent, about the paradoxical experience that you've talked about with many people on the pod, about finding a practice that seemed different, that spoke in ways that I was so hungry for, and that I rushed to, just like, oh, like, all bodies are welcome. How can we move in a way that is loving and caring and compassionate to our bodies? How can we think about them and treat them in all ways compassionately. And it didn't take very long to go just below the surface of that to see, oh, there's all kinds of diet culture, just teeming with diet culture.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling that cognitive dissonance about, wait, if we love our bodies, then why plastic surgery? If we love our bodies, why is nobody over the age of 40 in any of the videos, or over whatever weight? There's all just one kind of body type. And suddenly it became clear that that was the convenient message or the brand, but it wasn't really the practice.
Yeah. And in a way, like, I can sort of relate to that. Again, the water we're swimming in, right? So it's like, even as a teacher over 20 years, having these ideals and lip service, and myself being hypocritical,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not like, oh, I want to make it clear that neither Susan or I'm sure of this, are saying like, those people who are leading the org really don't get it. They're really under the spell. It's like, we all are under the spell. And so I was and likely am, in many ways, I'm catching myself in more and more things every day when I'm teaching. When I say, like, for example, today, this isn't about body size, but it is about policing people's energy and emotions. And I said something about smiling. I sort of advised people to smile. And then I caught myself immediately. And then I said, or not, you might have been told to smile your whole life. So you know what? If you don't want to smile, you don't ever have to smile in here. And then somebody said, can I give you the bird? And I said, yeah, you can. So we like made a joke of it. So it's like, it's so constant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where these messages, I hear myself just like spewing this stuff. And then I'm like, oh, okay, there it is. There it is. So circling back to the org, really noticing how I think even the message that we were all attempting to deliver, we were delivering the message, but we weren't embodying the message, because how do we embody the message in this culture? When we have all of this, and this is where I want to kind of shift into your essay a little bit, where we have a history of thinking and feeling about our bodies that we're bringing into it. And we can't just walk into a room and decide that body love is the order of the day.
Right.
And we are going to
Yes.
embody it and therefore model it to everyone. It's like, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. I wish that it did.
Calorie book. I'm 10. I find a well-worn green and white calorie counting book in the kitchen drawer. It fascinates me. I look up all the foods I ate that day to see how many calories I've had. Then I just start reading it cover to cover, noticing which foods are good, that is, low calorie, and which are bad. I notice my mother's writing in the margins of additional foods and their caloric cost. Clearly, she has spent time with this little book. There's a whole section of tips for successful dieting. High on the list, smoking. Smoking, for goodness sakes. Smoking, the little book says, is a known appetite suppressant and therefore beneficial to weight loss. I know from school that smoking is unhealthy, but I also know that weight loss is good. Is it more important to be thin or healthy? This, I don't know. I returned to that book regularly for years.
So I want to talk about this essay, this blog post. I'm really curious, when you wrote it in 2016, like, what was going on in your life that inspired you to pen this piece? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that I was aware of my disillusionment with the org. So there was that going on, that I wanted to own the hypocrisy that I was living. There was part of that. I wanted to feel more honest in that way. The way I wrote the essay, I called it Snapshots from the Brink of Body Image. And the reason I called it that is that for me, memory isn't like a movie. It's like this book of snapshots,
Mm-hmm.
and that I have like these little short, very intense memories, very vivid memories. And I felt pregnant with them. I felt like I'd been carrying all of these things. And as I started to just write them down, just the little snippets. And as soon as I would write one, I would have three in the wings waiting to come. And so it took me a long time to write it, because it was a process of letting myself remember, as first unloading the ones that had felt heavy, and then just discovering there was even more than I had thought. So it was really a process of wanting to be more honest with myself and with others, and to give myself some relief from carrying all of this stuff around. And I was interested when I wrote that. I was right on the cusp of menopause. And this is a time, both puberty and menopause are times when women are most susceptible to disordered eating, disordered views of their bodies, disordered exercise, and the like. And part of that is hormonal. Part of that is that there's such big changes that in this culture, it just sends us for a loop. And we're just like, holy smokes, I got to get control of this situation.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
And that's true when we're in puberty, and it's true when we're heading into menopause. So I didn't know that at the time, but I think that there was part of me that was like, this has been my whole adult life, and it doesn't seem to be changing. And I know that things are going to change as I head into menopause. And they did. So that was part of what was happening. And the other thing that was present for me then was, like racism, misogyny came out from the shadows in 2016. Misogyny was alive. I mean, like, not that it ever gone away. I don't mean to say that, but I mean to say that it was like, oh, this is everywhere. And so let me process my own internalized misogyny and get true about that as well.
Well, it's such an inspiring piece. As I was reading it, I was thinking, well, one, what I always think when I read a piece like that, I'm just marvel at people's memories, because I have all these felt sensations of things that happened, but I can't pull up the files. And so I was just marveling at how many moments that you remembered. And also, even though I can't pull up, exact parallel experiences, the sensation of them, every single one of them was familiar to me, every single one of them. Yeah. Right. And so you got it out of you in 2016. And then the moment when you decided to share it publicly, like, what was that about, and why was that important to you? I mean, I know you talked about normalizing the conversation, but I'm speaking about you internally. Yeah. Like, was there a shift in your life that inspired you to do that, or what happened?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, when I wrote the piece, I was right on the edge of menopause and kind of right on schedule. About a year or so later, I went into the most disordered eating that I had ever been in, and got sucked into part of what just was like. I was really struck by your conversation with Tara, was that the Eat to Live book that she mentioned was one of the many that I absolutely devoured and and bought into. And the whole getting it right, like what's the right thing to do and what's the best thing to do, getting back to the perfectionism, but also the patriarchy. Almost all of those books are written by rich, thin, straight men. And so by 2022, I had relaxed my grip on a lot of the disordered behavior. And I had also learned a lot about diet culture and anti-fat bias. And I understood things that I hadn't even understood when I had written it. And so my decision to post it was, I want to add my little drop into the bucket of, this is what it feels like. And this is what the experiences have been. And it is interesting to look back and read it. There are certain language that I would not have used now that I did then.
Yeah.
There's also places where I can see, oh, of course you felt that way, sweetheart. Of course you did. I mean, when I wrote the essay and when I was living it, there was a lot of the feeling of, you are some kind of crazy thing. But but I realize now there was all kinds of reasons that I felt the way I did, that I was behaving the way I did. So much of it came down to feeling safe, feeling protected, feeling aligned with some kind of power. And so I look at it now and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what was driving that in a way that I didn't when I was writing it, or living it. So by 2022, I felt like, it's important to be talking about this, because these are the ramifications, the personal ramifications of these larger systems and larger ways of, being with bodies. And so it's sort of an interesting evolution from the living to the writing to the sharing. But always. I think that they were definitely distinct places. And I certainly realized in 2022, you might get to the end of the essay and you're like, oh, she's all better now. Isn't that sweet? She's healed. And I think that part of what I want to say now, and which part of the reason I wanted to share it in 22 was that I was, oh, hell no, I wasn't. No. They say sometimes when you're stressed, you regress. And when we go back to the patterns, when our resources feel low, and my resources felt low when I was going through menopause for sure. So yeah, it's important for us to give ourselves so much grace and so much compassion as we inevitably cycle in and out, just like you say with your language in class.
Yeah. Well, especially like everything you just said, really, I feel like is underscored. And part of the reason why I really wanted to focus some energy and attention on it is that it's such a great illustration of how far back it goes. Because it's so easy in these conversations to be like diet culture and the org and wellness and fitness. And that's why I feel this pressure. But it's like, it starts so young. And like, I love that the very first snapshot that you offer is you at 10 years old, you picking up basically your mom's diet book, right? On like counting calories and noticing, what are calories? What's this about? And it was just so poignant to me. Just my heart was just like so touched immediately when you described your mom's had scribbled in the margins her calorie intake. And you're 10 years old and you're looking at this and you're like, oh, this is how it's done. This is what I must do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've internalized messages prior to this moment. This is just a moment when you see like, oh, this is the practical way that we do this, that we manage our bodies.
Right on.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm sure that there were messages before. This was just something very tangible. And it was, I remember having that thought of like, oh, like this is what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know a lot of you out there who are parents are really going to have all kinds of complex feelings around the piece around like how we learn from our parents, the way that they treat their bodies, the way they speak about their bodies, the way that they eat, the way that it's not what they say as much as it is what they do and what they demonstrate in terms of their relationships to their bodies. And it's just such a complicated thing because I would imagine I'm not a mother. And this is hard enough being a this woman in a body with a lot of thin privilege. It's like hard enough.
Right.
and the complexities of all the different factors in terms of intersectionalities. And also the factor of if you are a parent of a child and you're working on this stuff in real time. I read in the opening to part 2, the comment from a listener saying that they, for years, thought they were teaching their children about health, and they realized later they were teaching their children about disordered eating and how they're now making repairs. And whew, so my heart, I guess when I read that, like my heart went out to your mom too.
Sure. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really challenging. I think that, again, everything is so tangled in this stuff that there's nutritional science. There are foods that have, I don't know, more nutritional density or whatever you want to say. That's true. And understanding the impact of different foods on your body, that those things are true. And also, every body is different. Some bodies respond differently to different inputs in food. Food is also cultural and celebratory and comforting and a million other things. But if all we're teaching or learning is what's in the calorie book or what's in the nutritional label, then we're missing so much of the picture. Mm-hmm. And as a parent, it's so, I don't have kids of my own either. I have 2 stepkids, and I poured the whole food plant-based thing all over their poor little sweet selves. And, and I think that so much of it is fraught, and so much of it can be additional, like the Buddhists call it the second arrow, could be second, third arrows of like, there's this harm that was done, and then we can self-flagellate. And not only did I mess myself up, but I messed my kids up. And mm-hmm. I'm glad to hear that the listener is making repairs, because I think that is absolutely something that we can do, mm-hmm. and acknowledge harm or acknowledge misguidedness.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you said about being really gracious with ourselves too, because I'm thinking and noticing in my own path with this, like the pendulum ride. It's like the pendulum ride from the disordered orthorexic fixation on it's got to be healthy, it's got to be pure, it's got to be clean, blah, 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 to this like, fuck it. and Tara talks about that a little bit, and how that from her perspective and her experience, and paraphrasing what she said in the podcast around, it was necessary to swing to that other side in order to find the middle, right? Like, I'm going to let myself indulge. I'm not going to restrict. And that's her journey. And for some people, that's going to be true. And that's not going to be true for all people. And especially if there are other considerations and reasons why, they're not indulging in certain kinds of foods. So for me, I feel like I'm in this place where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do this micromanagey thing. And also, I actually do feel a sense of self-awareness around certain choices that I do and don't want to make.
Yes.
Like, there's certain things that I just really, I don't want to eat. It's not really a diet to me. It's different. It feels a different qualitative feel than when I'm dieting and restricting. It feels like these are foods that I've spent time. It's sort of like a lover that you've been with. That's like, that was fun. And like, I went back for more, but never again.
Right.
That's not for me. It's just not for me. It doesn't work for me. I don't feel good on the other side of it, emotionally, physically, whatever. And so I am abstaining from those things. And it doesn't feel like a restriction.
Right. That's right.
It's different.
Yes, it is different. I love that you're saying that. And I think that what I have been playing with is sort of what's my internal experience. And it does feel different. It feels different to be like, oh, I would love that, but I'm not going to have it because it's not good. It's not clean. It's not blah, 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 blah. As opposed to, I love myself so much that I'm not going to have that. And I'm going to be so freaking happy that I didn't have that, right? It doesn't feel like the deprivation. And I think that is really, we've got to kind of or for me, I've got to keep coming back to what's underneath that. What's at the root of that?
Exactly.
Is it like, oh, I didn't move much today, so I probably shouldn't have that. That's very different than that's going to feel not good on the backside. So I'm going to make a different choice.
Maybe even literally on the backside.
Right on. So true. So yeah, and I love the analogy of a lover too. Is like there's definitely stuff that I noticed has changed for me that over time. I mean, there was a day where you could not pull the glass of red wine out of my hand if you wanted to. Right. And now I never have it, and I don't miss it because it started not feeling good.
Yeah.
So I'm saying all of that to say to myself, to you, to listeners, for me, what so much of it comes to what it feels like underneath, what's fueling this.
Yeah. What is it?
Fear fueling this? Is like, choice. The perfectionism fueling this is, or is it care and, desire for feeling, well-being.
Right.
And I think that the problem is that on the outside, this is, I think or part of it, on the outside, the behavior can look the same.
Yeah.
It can look the same. Someone can look at somebody like me who eats almost no animal products and not too much sugar, no alcohol. And it could be like, oh boy, like from the outside, that looks disordered. And I would say that it is not, because the choices that I'm making come from a place of this just feels so good in a lot of different ways. And
including aligning with your values, which is also a consideration, which is why this is also very complex.
That's right.
Not as simple as my hunger is this and therefore.
That's right. And so, so just in the same way that you can't look at the outside of a body and know if it's healthy, you can't look at the outside of behaviors and know if those are healthy. It is coming from the inside. It has to. And I think that that's part of the reason I wanted to share that essay too, in that I am throwing the lid off of hiding the true things that were going on under the surface. And no matter what I was saying, this is the truth of what was happening.
Yeah.
And so, so that's part of the reason it feels important to share, so that we can all tenderly and kindly interrogate ourselves, or maybe not interrogate. That sounds a little harsh. Just like, really, let's check in. What's going on? And if and when it's like, I feel afraid of the ramifications of being in a body that doesn't align with a normative beauty standard. Well, darling, I get that. That makes sense. Let's look at that rather than trying to solve that problem by what you have for dessert or not. Right.
Yeah.
Deserve. I am fat. I don't deserve a cookie. I don't deserve a massage. I don't deserve sex. I don't deserve love.
Well, that's really the underneath, the deeper pulse, right? It's like, that's what we're after, is what's really like sort of the subterranean current that's running under all of this. And it's going to be so specific to each person. And yeah, we want to point at, this is how we should or shouldn't eat. This is how we should handle diet culture. This is how we shouldn't handle it. This is how we need to talk to fat people. This is how we need to not talk to fat people. There's obviously parameters around that we need to think about, but it's also about what we are embodying for ourselves, our own relationship to our bodies and the way that we project it onto the world around us, and then attempt to manage what's going on out there. And when you listen to the podcast and you feel that natural urge to tell me what I'm missing and what I'm not seeing and how, it's like, I'm open to that. And also, I think we also need to look critically at that impulse instead of just taking what works and what doesn't and integrating it and looking at ourselves. It's like I catch myself wagging my finger at other people's behavior instead of just really taking the note and embodying and living it myself and not making assumptions about their experience and how they need to do things differently. You know, I think it's a
Darn
very
it. No finger wagging, Candace.
well, a little bit, just a little bit, because, you know, we are human and it's, but I mean, actually speaking of that specifically, that projection, there's like so many good moments in this essay, y'all, you need to read it. But I made a note of a few that really jumped out at me. And there was one, I think it might be the shortest snapshot in the whole essay that I was just like, fuck, I love this woman for naming this.
Sidewalk judging. As I walk along Boston sidewalks, I look at every woman and judge. Fat, thin, fat, thin, fat.
When we talk about normalizing and naming these things, we have to bring our shame with us. It's like sitting right next to us. Because like I know that I have done and still do this like reflexively. And I feel so much shame around it. And the fact that you named it was just like so, oh my God. And to the point where I've had arguments with myself where I'm like so pissed at myself for doing it. But then how it shows up, the reason I brought it up right now is in the projection of like when I walk into a room and I see a woman immediately scan me from top to bottom before she makes eye contact and starts speaking with me. This like evaluatory thing that we do, like where do I fit?
Which rung is she on? Which rung on the ladder is she on?
That's right. It's so hardwired into us.
Yes.
And I say hardwired because it's like epigenetically goes back so far.
Absolutely. And I also want to own that I too still find myself reflexively doing that same kind of evaluative scan. And one of the things I've been playing with in the past year is just noticing when I do. And when I do, whether I'm saying in my head, dang, she has got it going on, or if I'm doing something more critical, I say to myself, all bodies are good bodies. It's a way for me to sort of recalibrate my brain, to notice when I do it and have something to go in its place. For years, it didn't work for me to say, Jesus, Susan, you are what the hell?
Yeah.
Mean girl, like it's crazy. Like that is, but that doesn't change the wiring. And so having this phrase, all bodies are good bodies, it has been so helpful.
I love that.
It hasn't stopped it, but it's like, it's diverting the stream instead of that just being a rushing river of judgment and evaluation. It's starting to peel off some of the force behind it. And yeah, so I'll report back in 12 years and let you know.
Right, exactly.
How that's going.
I'm officially adopting that as a replacement phrase as well. I think it's perfect. All bodies are good bodies. I love that. And I love with the simple phrases, because when we're in an activated state, it needs to be really simple. And I say activated because for me, it's like as soon as I go into that judgment, then I go into the shame spiral that I even had the judgment. And it's just this blah, 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 blah. And speaking of that, you sent me a link to a podcast I listened to yesterday, which is called the Burnt Toast Podcast. We'll link to it. And the title of the episode is You Cannot Fight Misogyny Without Fighting Fat Phobia. It's a wonderful interview with a woman by the name of Kate Mann. And she's the author of a book called Unshrinking: How to Face Fat Phobia. And it's a really great interview. There's a lot of good stuff in it. Discussions, obviously, about intersectionality and misogyny, fat phobia, and also, you know, pointing to the history of anti-fat bias, how it's steeped in racism, and just, you know, just touches upon all that. And there's lots of resources around that as well. But one of the things that she presented that I just love is she also was talking about, as we did on the podcast, there's like the body positivity movement. And then, of course, where that came out of, which was Black women taking back their power, and then how that was co-opted by white feminism and what ended up happening with that. So
Way to go.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. We do it.
And then body neutrality and, talking about when that's helpful. And also Kate was saying that she has this sort of other perspective that she likes to offer folks. And she calls it body reflexivity. Reflexivity. And it's basically the reframe of my body is for me. And I love this so much. And to elaborate, she says it's about, saying my body is for me. My perspective on my body is the only one that matters.
That's right.
My body is for me. My body is for me. I love this so much that today in class, I wove it into the class in a few different places. And we just kept sort of saying it. My body's for me. My body's for me. I love this so much.
Me too. Yeah.
And I want to hear your thoughts on this because I know in some of our banter back and forth, you were kind of speaking to this a little bit too. You want to say something?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was the first time I've ever heard it articulated so clearly in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is just incredible genius and transformative to think about that. And isn't that something that we are so trained to be focused on how our body is perceived by others, used by others, welcomed or not by others. What happens if it was just ours? I mean, this is extraordinary. And again, I think that like all bodies are good bodies, it's a great little mantra to have in our back pockets when we go out there world and face all of the mess. Having that perspective so clearly said is incredibly helpful, and doesn't mean that there won't be harm done. It doesn't mean that there won't be painful things. It is a way of reclaiming. And I agree. That was definitely a part that I was like,
it's a big one.
Oh, mind blown.
It's so good. It's so good. And it's also like, it's such a process of, because it's both and, as we've been talking about throughout the culture series, like it's that, inside job and systemic reality, right? So then it's like I love the example in the podcast that's given around like wearing a bra, just because I was just like, this is so relatable. Like I'm going to the store, like I don't wear a bra at home. When I'm at home, like the first thing that happens is my bra's off immediately.
Free the tatas.
Right, totally. Freedom to the tatas. Like the pandemic, I probably wore a bra 3 days in like 2 years. Seriously, like I never had a bra on. And there's been these moments where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go do a thing. Like in the winter, no big deal. Put on a baggy sweater. But like in the summer, right? Okay, I'm going to go to the store. I have on this t-shirt. I need to put a bra on. And then I think I really do have thoughts like, well, my body's, I don't use those words, but like my body's for me. Who cares? Like, I don't want to wear a bra. And then there's the systemic considerations of like, okay, well, do I want people to be staring at my chest, wondering why I'm not wearing a bra? The fact that my nipples might be somewhat apparent, that might be an issue for people around me. Do I want to take that on today? Not so much. So I'm going to put a bra on, right? So it's so complex. And that's so like goes back to what we were saying before. It's not, so we should just do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, we're in the water. We'll come up for air sometimes, but we got to be in the water most of the time.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that, because I was thinking about that very thing this morning. I'm working at home today. I'm not doing, but I also am I went for a walk. And I chose to put on a bra because it feels better.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of how I'm going to present out there, but again, from the outside, I'm doing the behavior is the same on the outside, but I was doing that 100% for me. Nobody else.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that that's important, again, to just remember that the external behavior is not necessarily telling you the whole story. And I also love what you said. I want to really highlight this. What do I have capacity for today?
Yep. That's right.
What do I have capacity to take on? I think this is so important to really honor this in ourselves and really be gentle with ourselves. There are days where I am like, I surrender to diet culture or and I'm going to wear the thing that I know is going to get me through without ruffled feathers and, or any kind of eyebrows raised or whatever. And then there are other times where, I'm going to wear that orange dress to that thing, where I will wear the loud colors. I will wear the sleeveless dress, even though I'm almost 60. I'm, all of the things, because I feel like I have the capacity to stand in that.
Yeah.
And I am willing to take that on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to not think, I don't know, a liberated, free mind would do this. Yeah, sometimes, and sometimes not.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I'm so glad you highlighted that. And it feels connected to, and I know we're on a tangent here, but it feels really important, but it really feels connected to why cancel culture is so problematic. Mm-hmm. Because it very much ignores the systemic complexity that's surrounding the individual and the influences and the cultures that are all like sort of bleeding together and shaping behavior. So, there's of course extreme examples where I'm a fan of the idea of canceling someone when like really extreme things happen. Like, I can get on board with that. But the nuances of like the way it's applied, where it's like, this is how you should behave, this is how you should act, like the policing on the progressive side of things, the policing of behaviors, and like, this is how we should be now that we know better. And it's like, yeah, okay. But what world do you live in where there's not nuance? One, where there's not nuance and pressures that I have to contend with and my capacity is limited at times. And two, like you're really doing a great job of underscoring, just because a behavior is showing up this way, it doesn't mean that it means the same thing to me that it means to you. So can we give each other the benefit of the doubt and the grace? And really, that's really I feel like cancel culture is sort of this offshoot of the white supremacist perfectionism.
Oh, hell yeah.
So it's like
purity culture. Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. Purity culture. Exactly. It's the same thing. So how can we not, okay, we're not going to be pure about our diets anymore, but we're going to be pure about not being pure about our diets anymore. Right. Well, how is that different? Right.
It's not. That's exactly right. It's the same cage. It's just different sides of the bars. Yeah. And I love that. And, it's tough. Our brains love the black and white. Mm-hmm. Our brains rush to that. Yeah. And so I have compassion for all of us who want things to be like clear and clean and all this, none of that. And the truth is that sometimes the best dinner there is chocolate cake. And sometimes, going along with something that you don't agree with is just what we have to do to manage sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so, it is always fascinating when I'm saying you are too dogmatic about your whatever, when
totally. I'm so guilty of this. I know it.
Got my own dogma. I got my own dogma. Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
So that's why we deconstruct it. And that's why we talk about these things. And
that's right.
And why it's so helpful to be willing to put the flashlight not just on the things that we're proud of and the things that we're growing into, but also the things where we regress and the things that we wish we'd done differently and the things that we're messing up all the time. And that's just part of the messy process of learning.
And the human condition, right? Like who decided that it wasn't supposed to be that way? Right. Isn't that funny? Like we have this sort of implication sometimes of we're going to figure it out. We're going to crack this whole being human thing and we're going to nail it. And it's like, who decided that that was even something we could do?
Or would be advisable.
Or even, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it seems like as soon as we start to do that, that's when we make the biggest messes.
Yeah, right.
Or I'll speak for myself. It's when I make the biggest messes. And the messes I've been involved in have been when I've been like dogmatically sure that we're cleaning shit up.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. You referenced this podcast that I sent you. The Burnt Toast podcast is done by Virginia Soul Smith, who is also a fantastic journalist who does a wonderful combination, I think, of well-researched articles and pieces about what's actually happening for fat bodies, especially in our country. And she mixes with that her own experiences, a lot of practical information. So, for example, when I teach my classes, I like to have chairs available for anybody for whatever reason. I have some participants who spend much of the class in a chair. I have people who occasionally visit the chair, And one of the things I learned on, I think it was on Virginia's podcast, was have chairs without arms.
Mm-hmm.
Have chairs that have the capacity for a body that doesn't fit in this amount of space, right? Like this.
Yeah.
And I would never have thought of that because of my privilege and because I had never bumped up against that. So that's the kind of thing that I'm saying, is that by really listening to these educators and these journalists is a way of understanding what's at stake for people who are living in more marginalized bodies than mine, and can help me stand up and speak up for things, so that when I go to the doctor, when they ask me to weigh myself, I say no. Because unless it's like, I ask them, is there some reason I'm here for a sore piriformis muscle? I don't see how my weight has any impact on that. Is there some reason? No, there's no reason. Okay. Or if they say, so we can get your BMI, I'm like, okay, I have a podcast for you. And no and no. So, but what I'm saying is that if people with thin privilege start saying no to being weighed.
That's true. That's true. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's right.
If people with thin privilege are speaking up about the furniture in the waiting room, that there is only furniture for people of a certain kind of body. It's important for us to see these things. And I've been so grateful for all of these resources. And I really invite, if people are interested in unpacking this stuff, these are all great places to go.
Yeah, we're going to link to all of those. That's great. Thank you. I'm looking for as many resources as possible. I appreciate that. I love that. It's sort of practical ideas of how to use privilege to sort of shift the culture. I love that so much. Yeah. And the BMI thing, it actually circles me back to your essay and this interaction you had in high school. Was it in high school when you went in for medical advice and the doctor said something about no, it wasn't in high school. You were a grown woman. See,
I was a grown-ass woman.
This points to the real fucked upness of this.
Yeah.
You were a grown-ass woman and you went to the doctor and your doctor told you that people should weigh what they weighed in high school?
Yes. I call that one, that Snapshot, the shittiest doctor in Boston.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the shittiest doctor in Boston. I have the shittiest doctor in Boston. A man with no kindness or warmth. I'm afraid to go to someone else, though, because of what he would think. Oddly, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I decide it doesn't matter that he's shitty. 2 years married and not the least bit interested in having children, I tentatively, hesitantly ask him if there's anything I should know if I decided I wanted to get pregnant. Why am I asking if I have no interest in having a baby? Excellent question. It's like eating lunch because it's noon. It seems like what I'm supposed to be asking my doctor at this point in my life. People, says the world's shittiest doctor, have been getting pregnant forever. There's nothing you need to know. A year later, deep in the throes of disordered eating and exercising, I tell him that I'm concerned that I weigh too much. He asks what I weighed my senior year of high school. Everybody, he says, should weigh what they weighed in high school. I have no idea what I weighed then, but I tell him 130, knowing full well that was what I weighed in 8th grade. You should lose 10 pounds then, says my shitty doctor. Do you exercise? I tell him my regimen of 2 workouts plus a walk every day. He looks at me over his shitty half-moon glasses and sighs. I guess there's not much more you can do then. And it was at a time where I was I absolutely was deferring to his authority. Not one cell in my body was going to question what he had to say or even leave his practice. That's the other thing that sort of is gobsmacking to me, that I was like, oh, I don't want him to think that I don't like him by pulling out of his practice. I
Oh
mean,
God, how relatable is
please.
that, people pleasers?
Oh my gosh. So right.
Oh
So
my God.
so yeah, that was his assertion, was that everyone should weigh whatever they weighed in high school. And that, such a small example of how there are people in the healthcare industry have so much authority for many of us that it's hard for us to buck against it. And so when these things are being thrown around, which when we scratch the surface, they're like based on nothing.
Right.
Whether it's the BMI or like this kind of random, I mean, it's so absurd. And
Right. Or toxic masculinity's visual preference.
Right on.
Which actually, side note, isn't even true, because there's all kinds of research showing that actually
Yes.
people are attracted to larger bodies, but they hide it. So I just want to throw that in there, because it's not even fucking true.
That's
just
isn't
optics.
even true.
Sorry,
that
go
is
ahead.
right. That is right.
Mhm.
And, fascinating, right? But I think that part of what we have seen in the education of our healthcare professionals is that they are given very, very biased information, very sort of black and white information. And, they're also influenced by companies like Novo Nordisk and these big diet companies who go in with just gobs of money and their own kind of influence that
And their own self-funded research that they're just pumping into these doctors. Like, look at what the research says, which is totally biased research. Yeah.
That's right. So I think that part of what I feel good about is that over the decades, my willingness to say, hold on a second.
Yeah.
In a doctor's office has changed a lot. And I appreciate the opportunity to use my privilege to do that.
Yeah.
In a way that I am far less vulnerable than a lot of people.
That's right. Which leads perfectly into another moment I highlighted in your essay. You're talking about your experience in your brown belt, like the way that these wounds cut, like how much more deeply they cut some folks more than others.
Later in brown belt, grappling with my own demons, a beautiful, round, brown woman who I've been admiring all week is crying about her body. This brings me a fresh round of tears to think that she was stuck in this too. Not her, too. Yeah, I remember that so well. That feeling of, I think, like literally being on the floor, feeling like I was wrestling with my demons, and having spent a good part of a week watching this woman move, watching her presence, and just admiring her so much in every way, and saying, not her too. Not her too. Mm-hmm. So, it is important to look at our own positions and also to, just show just a lot of grace and compassion for all of us wherever we are.
That's right.
Yeah.
You'll find a link to Susan's original blog post in the show notes that accompany today's episode. Or if you love the sound of her voice as much as I do, if you head over to Patreon, I've included a link of her reading it in its entirety. And don't forget, there's more to this conversation. If you'd like to listen in on the final 45 minutes or so of our chat, I'll be dropping it as a bonus over on Patreon later this week. Susan and I discuss all sorts of things, including orthorexic food monitoring, the pluses and minuses of mirrors, waking up to anti-fat bias, and what it might actually look like to shift fitness spaces away from diet culture norms. If you're not yet a patron of the pod, you can gain access through a 7-day free trial, and you'll discover an existing library of 50-plus bonus episodes and a brand new unscripted solo series with yours truly that I'm calling Subject to Change. Head over to patreon.com/The Deeper Pulse if you want to learn more. A huge, wholehearted thank you to Susan for bringing so much humility, candor, and depth to this dialogue. And I'll be back next week with a very timely conversation. Did you know that January is Spiritual Abuse Awareness Month? There's a lot to unpack there. And my next guest specializes in exactly that. I can't wait for you to meet her. Thanks for tuning in, and if you haven't yet taken a moment to rate and review the pod on your favorite streaming app, I would so appreciate if you would. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.